Last chapter, we learned how Romanticism and Neoclassicism influenced modern art. We also learned how the Industrial Revolution, the expansion of international trade, and new wealth made art accessible to the mass public. Both Neoclassicism and Romanticism continued to have their followers, and each displayed their own version of escapism by depicting cultures and literary fantasies. However, European and North America began to seize territories in Africa, South America, Asia, and the North Pacific to acquire raw materials and market their goods. This did not always happen peacefully. Just as there was an escapism happening, there was also a public need to capture what was happening more accurately and objectively. The public demand expedited the first practical photographic process. It was our newly industrialized countries that created a cultural need for representational accuracy. The invention of photography both responded to and fueled a desire for objective truth. Photographic methods have existed since ancient times with the use of camera obscura. Basically, it's a dark chamber with a small aperture that projects onto the opposite wall external scenes. In 1839, the daguerreotype was invented. This mechanical device was able to, in detail, capture an image and permanently fix it upon a flat surface. In 1837, Louis-Jacques Daguerre invented the daguerreotype and introduced it worldwide in 1839. As mentioned, this mechanical device was able to, in detail, capture an image and permanently fix it upon a flat surface. Here, we see a very early example of this taken in the artist's studio. This intrigued many artists, specifically Western painters, and used this technology as a reference for their paintings. There were, of course, other artists who rebelled against this technology and chose to work conceptually and imaginatively. In the 1830s and 40s, photography development still had a long way to go. If you look, the buildings in the street are in distinct focus. Do you see anything different about this photograph? Can you explain why we only see one person in this photograph? At this point, the photosensitive materials were still very slow. We don't see any people walking or moving around. The one person we do see is one man getting his shoe shined. He is standing long enough to be caught by the camera. And if you look, you can see the person right here standing getting his shoe shined. Normally we would see activity of people coming down this road or going up this sidewalk. But again, as mentioned, this person was standing long enough to be caught by the camera. William Henry Fox Talbot discovered a new technique called the calotype, which superseded the daguerreotype because of its reproducibility. This technique of calotype converted a negative image into a positive one. This process of creating a negative made it possible for the image to be replicated an infinite number of times. Ethnography images were also popular. Ethnography is a form of anthropology that provides scientific description of individual human societies. This developed at relatively the same time as the expansion of colonialism by European countries, especially Britain and France. Ethnography started in response to national interests who wanted a better understanding of the cultures under colonial rule. Therefore, the expansion of colonialism led to the emergence of ethnographic photography. Along with basic curiosity, there was also money to be made selling such exotic images, so many photographers focused on landscapes and people of new colonized regions. It's important to note that many photographs that look authentic, like war scenes, were actually staged and made to look authentic to try and portray an actual event. This could be in part for the photographer's safety and also the technology, for the fast shot didn't exist yet, and so to capture an event, it often needed to be staged to create a clear photo. Photography was not the only way to document and observe reality. So was realism. Realism was mostly connected to the social history of France during the difficult social and political times. As mentioned earlier, France went through a series of revolutions. Napoleon was defeated in 1850, who was succeeded by the Bourbon monarchs. In 1830, revolution broke out, replacing the monarchs with citizen king Louis Philippe, who governed as a monarch. In 1848 was the Great Revolution, which became the Second Republic. The new president was Louis Napoleon Bonaparte, Napoleon's nephew, who eventually turned his rule into an empire and continued on as Napoleon III. In 1870, without a strong army, his empire collapsed. Artists such as Daumier created satirical works in the form of lithographs. Here we see Daumier's Rue Transonienne. This lithograph shows an innocent family of workers all murdered by the Civil Guard during the Republic Revolt of 1834. The title refers to the street where the killings took place. This is not sentimental or romantic, nor is it glorified. It's drawn out to record and acknowledge an incident. It's representing a real event. And if you look, we could see the cruelty of the event in this figure over here. We could see how he was murdered with his eyes still open. We see a body laying over here. And then we see the father, most likely dying to protect his child, which was in vain because we see the child dead down here. Again, this represented an actual event. A Burial at Ornans by Gustave Courbet documents an ordinary place in the artist's small hometown in eastern France. However, this painting is over 21 feet long. The large size of the canvas relates to what a more traditional historical painting would be. Historical paintings were a category reserved for the more noble events of the past. This was not a noble event, and these people are not important, maybe to each other, but they certainly don't have any historical importance. These casual arrangements of local villagers, mostly friends and relatives, represent a local funeral with no real narrative message. We don't know who these exact people are or who is being buried. Courbet's representation of normal everyday people did not fit into the way many other French artists perceived rural folk. Courbet's painting was radical in its time because it combined ordinary subjects with history painting. If you look closely in this detail of the painting, you'll see that it's a bit gritty. These people are very individualized with great detail, but the application is a bit rough, not smooth or polished. All the colors are muted tones of paint that express the harsh life that they lived. Like Courbet, Rosa Bonheur painted scenes of rural life. Hers were more focused on agricultural labor. Her parents were very open-minded and allowed her to pursue paintings and aided in her development. In her youth, she would dress up like a boy to visit farms and slaughterhouses so she could sketch and learn anatomy. Young females in her day were not allowed to do such things. Bonheur's efforts to disguise herself and hard work paid off. The clarity of her works, combined with her rich color and extreme accuracy in her depictions, provided her well-earned fortune and fame. In this close-up of the painting, you can see Bonheur's attention to detail and accuracy. Not only in the drawing aspect of this painting, but also the colors. She captured the reality of the world around her.